Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome officially to the Publicity Primer. This is how to grow your business, how to build your business through the use of media. I'm so excited to have Katie with me today. I'm going to talk about her in a minute. I want to get my introduction out of the way while we're waiting for people to friends. So I know almost everybody here knows me, but I'm Rita Goodero. If you're watching on video especially and you don't know who I am, I'm a business mentor, speaker, and strategist, and I own the company Rita Made Me Do It. I help with entrepreneurs to build a profitable business that supports their dream life. And in fact, it's almost the opposite. I've almost switched that. I really help people have a positive life so that they can so they can build a profitable business. Because if you're not living your life and what you're doing, you're not going to build a profitable business. But I run a community online called the All-In Entrepreneur, and that's a free Facebook community. And if you're not a member, I'd love to have you join. And that's enough about me today. I have a lot more to my story, but it's kind of secondary to what's happening here today. But I will tell you how I know Katie. So Katie is actually my client, full disclosure. Katie is my client, but she's also my publicist. So Katie is an amazing publicist, most recently getting me on Great Day Washington in the Washington, D.C. area. And after that appearance, a lot of people started messaging me and asking me, saying, that was great, but also how can I do that? How can I get on the news? How did you get on the news? Tell me what you did. And I said, well, I had a Katie. I had a Katie, and that's how I got on the news. I don't know how I got on the news other than I had a Katie. So let me see if Katie's willing to come on and kind of talk to people about what she did to put me on the news. So we had a free Facebook Live. If you missed it in the All-In Entrepreneur, we answered a few questions, but it really led into, let's have this masterclass where Katie is going to go deeper into a bunch of different areas. She's going to outline for you today, the topics, the points that she's going to go over. But the structure of today is really, we want to get to know you. There's a small enough group here. We want to start by getting to know a little bit about you and a little bit about your business. I put a poll in the Women's Business Garden, in the All-In Entrepreneur. It used to be called the Women's Business Garden, in the All-In Entrepreneur group. And I saw that a lot of people are interested. I don't know if you've seen it, Katie, because I did the poll today. A lot of people are interested in getting published, articles, and getting featured in Entrepreneur and Forbes, followed by radio shows, followed by television. And I have a feeling that's not 100% true. I have a feeling, based on my talks with a lot of you, that you all really do want to be on television. It just terrifies you. It scares you the most. And so it's easier to say, I'll write an article. That'll be my foray. We're going to talk about it all today. But I saw that so many of you are really interested in some form of it. So we want to get to know you and your business and how you think that media can help you grow your business, right? But before we do that, I want to turn it over to Katie because she is amazing and she's wonderful. She's the owner of KT Media Strategy. She's a former news producer and a current publicist, but I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about her career trajectory and how she got here in front of you today to be able to talk to you about this. So thank you, Katie, so much for doing this for us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, good. My AirPods actually decided to work today, so that's nice. I'm really excited to meet all of you. I love talking about publicity. I could talk about it all day, every day. In fact, I do. So it's really good that I'm a publicist. I did start my career as a TV news producer. I've worked doing every shift imaginable, every kind of news producing you can really think of, from local news in New York to local news here in DC, where I worked at Channel 4, WRC, if anybody watches Channel 4. And that's where I met my husband, actually. He still works there. And then I went to CBS News, but I worked for an energy and environment show that's on, used to be on Bloomberg TV. So I've really done just about everything: long form stories, short form stories, producing, booking guests. I've met a really, lot of great people here in DC, everybody from, past presidents and Congress people to celebrities. One of my favorites was Sheryl Crow. She is as nice as they say. But I got to, set up a hotel room at the Ritz for her morning show segment that we did with her one day. So I've done just about everything. And then I decided that I really wanted to not be helping news stations anymore and be helping people and use my insider knowledge of having worked in the news business to really get people exposure through media for their businesses, for their message, their books, their events, whatever, their thought leadership, just in general, whatever it is. I've been really committed the last 5 years or so to flipping the switch and then helping people. So I'm looking forward to hearing all of your stories and seeing how things might be helpful for you with getting media exposure. But as a primer, I think one of our goals today is really give you just an insight as to what the possibilities are, because a lot of people think, oh, there's no way I could do that, right? And, Rita is one of those people that proves she didn't think there's no way I could do that, but proves that you come up with an idea, we run with it, and it happens, no matter what it is. So with a little finagling, you can really boost things for yourself and your business through doing some media exposure. So we're going to talk about some behind the scenes things and also some what I like to call media mindset and getting in that media mindset and really, being able to put yourself out there, because it does take a little bit of pre-work, and that is some things that I work on with people too, to really not have so much of that fear anymore and kind of take some of that fear away from, oh my gosh, what happens if I actually do get booked to be on TV or to be on radio or podcast or, whatever it is, or how do I write this article? We'll get into some tips and tricks and all of that. So I think we're going to start with having you guys now introduce yourselves. And let me know if it's static too much.
Yeah, like your earbuds are just a little poppy, like they're a little, is it just me that's hearing the little pop and static, or do you guys hear it too when she talks? Are you guys okay with it? Like it's not terrible. It's there, just FYI, Katie. So
okay.
I'm waiting for the day that somebody doesn't have problems with their earbuds before I buy them. I'm waiting for the day that somebody's like, I use them all the time and they work effortlessly and easily, but I have not heard that yet. So, okay, so we are going to get to know you. Somebody had messaged me and I forgot, so I wanted to say on the video, the trajectory that Katie just talked about taking an idea and running with it. Katie and I shared my most recent news appearance in the free Facebook Live video in the group. So we won't recap it all here, but it was about 10 days from idea to the day that I sat on the couch, right? Like from the day that I had the idea to the day I was sitting on the couch in Great Day, Washington. It might not have even been 10, it could have been 8, but it was somewhere between 8 to 10 days beginning to finish. It can be that quickly. Now, I will say it was that quickly because I had Katie's help. When I had created a draft and a proposal and a pitch to send in, and Katie took it, this is where I said, I'm going to do this one. It's not really a thing. I'm not really trying to be on the news. And Katie was like, no, you are. And I'm taking this one and I'm running with it. And when I saw what I had written compared to what she had written, it was like night and day difference. And that's why, so if you really do know this information and have all the right resources and have the right support, it can be that fast, right? It can be that quick. So, all right, so let's start getting to know you guys. So Karen, you're in my upper, for people in my group coaching programs, I know whoever's in my upper left corner gets to go first. So Karen, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, a little bit about your business, right? Let's try to keep this, guys, to 2 minutes, right? Who you are, a little bit about your business, and how you've used media or how you want to use media and what you think it can do for your business.
Okay, well, let's see. Katie, hello. I see you again here. I met Katie at the Possibilities Publishing Conference.
Oh, yay!
Yes. I think it was June. And so when I saw that it was going to be both of you, I thought this would be good to be part of and such. I am the owner of a new business called K-Full Books. I'm doing books to help reluctant readers learn to enjoy reading a little bit more. And came up with this idea based on my own son from about 15 years ago, who did not enjoy reading whatsoever. But boy, he really enjoyed any of the playful games, the Seek and Find or the World Almanac, that kind of thing. And so the idea came together that I'd like to try to create something that helps those kids or adults, can be anybody. And I'm very excited, Katie. We are now at the point where I've got all the illustrations done and we are getting ready to start publishing. So I'm
amazing.
out.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy about that.
Thank you. I'm excited. It's probably in about 2 months or so. So looking towards the publicity side of everything now. What do I need to do? Where do I start? It's the biggest thing. Literally, I'll show you. This is my publicity of everything that has come to me in terms of ideas for publicity over the past 3-4 months. And that's basically where I'm at. So that's what I'm looking to hopefully get some information on today.
Cool. Well, I will say, I love that you wrote it down. That's like 50% ahead of what most people do. They just have it in their mind, and then all of a sudden, 3 months later, they're like, God, I had some good ideas. Like, I don't remember what they are. So, I'm really glad you're here, Karen. Thank you. All right, let's go down to Evala. Evala, you are next.
Hi, my name is Evala Ram, and I am a coach, and I work with parents of teenagers. And I want to go on TV because I really want to get my name out there. I am also a certified facilitator for Brene Brown's work. You know, she's got the 4th most watched TED Talk. I moved from the DC area to Louisville last year, and hardly anybody here has heard of her. So, people, I have to explain, she's got the 4th most watched TED Talk. She knows Oprah, you know, just go into the whole very general spiel. But I've also, I'm in recovery. I've been sober 35 years. So I've done talks in front of large groups of people about that. So I have a story to tell about parenting and all the pain I've gone through, and I want to work with people to let them know there is support, there can be change, but there also needs to be accountability. So I really think that getting on TV is the best way to put myself out there in a short period of time. And I don't have a problem getting out there. I'm a member of PFLAG, which is Parents and Friends of Lesbian and Gays. My daughter's gay, and they interviewed me at our Pride Festival here. So I don't really have fear around that. I have fear around results of that. Like, oh my God, what if people actually want me to work with them and I can't do what I say I'm doing? So, but that's a whole nother issue. But I'm excited about this. I have 5,000 questions, so I'm looking forward to hearing your talk, and that's me.
Thank you so much. Okay, Heather, I see your beautiful ceiling. Is that your ceiling? I think it's a beautiful ceiling. I don't know if you're there, Heather. If you're there, like, pop your head over and let me know. Otherwise, I'll come back to you in a minute. Heather's an interior designer. She's amazing. So, all right, Lisa Nichols, you are next.
Are you? Hey, Katie. Hey, Rita. I'm a social media consultant. I've been doing this for 9 years, and publicity? Why publicity?
Why do you want to be on the news?
I know, right? I actually, because I started my business when I was about 50 years old, I really would love to get out there and be kind of advocating for older entrepreneurs or encore entrepreneurs, and I think that's a really good angle. I just haven't done anything about it. I've been on several podcasts, which I really love and enjoy being a guest, and I think that it would help my business grow and give me more credibility to be more visible. So in a nutshell, that's why I'm interested.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Great.
All right, Emily, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Emily Burrows, and my business is Bold in Business. I teach women entrepreneurs and women in organizations how to be more confident and how to set bolder goals and achieve them. I grew up in a family where we were told that we could figure out how to do anything. Like if a smart person did it, then we could figure it out. And it's how I've approached, life. I can figure out how to sell or market or create or publish, or I have no idea how to do what you do, Katie. And I don't even think I want to figure it out. I think I just want to hire someone like you to do it.
Exactly.
I get that a lot. Yeah, I get that, where especially people start to learn a little bit about it, and then they're like, oh, I can't I don't have time for that. I don't, I can't do that. I don't know what you do. So you're not alone in that, Emily, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. I was telling Katie the other day, Emily, that I think that this is like the most secretive industry in the world. Like, in terms of being able to lock down the actual steps, like you can Google and you find pieces here or there, but like for other things, it'll be like, here's how you pitch yourself for paid speaking, step 1 to 102. This is like how you get on the news. There's some things you do. And you're just like, are you kidding me? Like the industry has locked itself down. So somebody like Katie being here is really exciting.
So you know that I was in publishing for 32 years. And
yes, Katie does not know that. Emily was in publishing for 32 years.
I was in publishing for 32 years. And there came a point where I wanted to get articles in the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times about a book that we had coming out of Harvard. And I called my marketing team in and said, okay, like just do this. And they said, no, we have to hire someone. And we did. And that really surprised me because I thought, well, we were in, the industry, but we didn't know how to do it. We had to hire a Katie.
Yeah, hire a Katie. That's it. There's your hashtag, Katie. Hashtag hire a Katie.
Hire a Katie. I like it.
Jennifer, I don't know if you're there, if you're able to unmute yourself or if you want to turn on your video or just unmute yourself. You guys don't have to turn on your video, but your video is off and you are muted. So if you want to say hello and introduce yourself, I will give you a second. I don't want to do it for you. Are you there? I saw you unmuted yourself, but I can't hear you. You there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry I can't join by video, but I'm actually driving and I just pulled over when you said my name so I could talk to you. This is great. My name's Jennifer Howe Cut. I am a leadership development and career consultant. I recently had the privilege to step into my business full time and reached out to Rita, and I'm an active client, and we've been working together for a little bit over a month, and I've had amazing things come my way since connecting with Rita. So I'm really excited. My main goal for just exploring the whole media is to just get out there and let people know what I do and that I'm doing it full time and what my services are, and to just take bold and brave actions to put myself out there full time and start this new trajectory in my career.
I love it. Thank you. All right. Be safe driving.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll know now, like if I ever ask you a question or something and you can't answer, I know what you're doing and we'll come back to you. So.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Carolyn, I see you. Your camera's off and you're muted. I don't know if you want to unmute yourself or not and say hello, but I don't want to turn on your camera or unmute you if you're somewhere where that can't happen and you're just kind of being passive. So I will give you a minute to see if you want to do that, guys. Also, if you take your cursor and you kind of scroll it to the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a couple of icons pop up, and you can hit the chat icon, and there's like a group chat, and you're free to kind of chat there at any time. You can, if you have a question, just write with a capital, like the capital word, all in all caps, question, put it there. We'll try to, grab it and answer it as we can. All right, Rashida, I see you're there with your camera up. Surprised that Rashida has her camera off. Girl, Rashida was just on the news. Rashida was just on Great Day, Washington. She is like, I was like, look at her go. So anyway, Rashida, introduce yourself to everybody, please. You're on mute, so hold on. Go ahead. All right, you're good.
Hi, I am Rashida. I do not have a pitch down today because I am actually transitioning out of my current business into speaking full time. So I'm here today because my problem is not the pitch. I actually worked in TV for a few years. And so I'm good at pitching and getting on, but not necessarily knowing what to do with it afterwards and how to turn that into, I always forget to send people back to like my website or point them into a direction that I want them to go afterwards. So actually using the publicity in a productive way.
Yeah, I love that. Good. And also, like, pitching yourself for your business, which is what you were doing before, right? It might be slightly different than how you want to do it to position yourself as a speaker and a speaker that will get paid, right? So so definitely. Cool.
Rashida, what did you do when you worked in TV?
I was so I actually worked my way from an apprentice to a producer, and then did a little bit of on air.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we need to talk. Did you produce at Channel 7?
Nope, I worked in Pittsburgh at KDKA.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very cool. All right. So let me see. Heather or Carolyn, if you guys are there, you can unmute yourself. You don't have to. I'm going to give you one more minute. All right. Feel free to chat or to type your introduction in the chat too. And everybody watching on replay, like when you got this, you got it through an email. So just hit reply and let us know your introduction and who you are and what you're about. We're going to read all the replies as well so that we really know if we need to tell you an extra point or something like that that we think might be relevant to you based on what you do and why it is that you're wanting to use media in your business. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Katie, who's really going to just get us started. Now note that we're going to have open question and answer at the end. So like Katie might be a little interactive with different sections. I know she's going to be interactive in certain points. But if there's a question that just pops up or a question that like is unrelated or something like that, make sure you write it down or type it over in the chat, and then we'll scroll through afterwards so they can all be asked. And then Katie is also going to talk to you before Q&A. So between what Katie talks about and then before Q&A, I'm going to tell you about something exciting that I got Katie to agree to do for my group. So everybody who knows me knows I like to get special things for my community that nobody else can get. And I got something from Katie because, we're tight like that. And I'm going to tell you about it before we get to the open Q&A. It won't be long, but stick around and then you're going to get to talk to Katie and ask her all your questions, okay? So either write them in the chat, remember them, and that's how we'll get to them. So Katie, you can just take it away. Tell everybody, what it is that we're here to learn today.
Yeah, and it's interesting what you were talking about, how tight-lipped this industry is. It's really, I think, because the industry has been changing a lot. And I thought about it recently about how the media still does matter, but it definitely has changed in terms of how you do things. Social media especially changed the industry tremendously, but it's a lot of who you know. It's a big but very small, tight-knit industry. So that's why a lot of times you say, I sent this and it didn't get anywhere, and I can see they didn't even read my email. Well, a lot of it is the connections, and they get producers and people you're pitching get so many pitches in a day. I mean, hundreds. So if they recognize your name, they're much more likely to open your email. And I was telling Rita when we were pitching her to local TV here, that's definitely a strong suit of mine, having worked in local TV in DC. So people tend to open my email and know that I bring them a certain caliber of person that they should have on TV. So that's a little sidebar about that. But when I start by asking a bunch of questions, and I think you guys should write down the questions and think about the answers. You don't have to write the answers right now, but it's something to kind of get you started and kick off thinking about publicity, which is kind of what all of you seem to be doing right now. And like, I've thought about it, but I'm not really sure. And I don't even know how to start or what to do and what the steps are. And as we've gone through, it's also really tailored and really different for everyone based on your goals, which is why there's no cheat sheet on the internet that you can just Google. So one of the first questions that I like to ask people is, are you clear what your goal is with media exposure? Are you really clear? And if the answer is, oh, heck no, like, that's fine, because I do work with a lot of people and can kind of guide people through the process of figuring out what that goal is. And it starts with, I know that Karen knows this because she's heard me talk about this, but it starts with your why. So I'll use Karen as an example here. She first came when I did a talk. She said, I have a seek and find book about ocean conservation. And I said, okay, but we got to the why part. Her why is to reach reluctant readers. So just recognizing your why of why you're doing your business, why you're, speaking, why, what your why is, then leads you through to getting clear on what your overall goal is. And then your media goal comes out of that. So it's kind of a process. It's not something that everybody knows right off the bat. So that's one of the first questions is, are you clear on what your goal is with media exposure? The second question is, what has your engagement level been with the media so far? Some of you have already done on-air, podcasts, whatever. And so take a look at how those opportunities came about or how they felt. Do you feel really good and awesome about them, or were they a little bit scary and you were a little shaky and there's things you need to work on? Just being clear about how you felt about that media exposure, or maybe it's, I haven't had any, and so I'm not really sure how to feel about it. Just whatever it is, write it down. Do you have preconceived notions about being in the media? And those often lead to sometimes fears or concerns or just unknowns. So what are your preconceived notions? Are they good? Are they not so good? Whatever it is, I tell people to write it down. And then the last thing is, how clear are you on your target audience? Because that's really, really important. And I think people think, oh, I want to be on, my goal eventually is to be on Dr. Oz or the Today Show. And I tell you, I've gotten clients on there before, but it's not always people's target audiences. There are sometimes a lot better audience for you, and it may not be or Good Morning America there, but whatever it is, do you think you're clear on what your target audience is? Because sometimes people are surprised to hear, actually my target audience is this or that, because I'm trying to sell a book. And so certain types of media are better at selling books. So it's just good to get clear on what your target audience is. And I have a whole process that I work through with people on how to do that. And we'll get more into that in a little bit. But I really want to touch on why media is one of the best marketers out there. It's not your whole marketing plan, certainly, but it is part of your marketing plan, or it should be, because it really is the fastest way to get your ideas out there, whether it's a book or a business or a speaking opportunity, just to get what you're doing out there, or leadership development like Jennifer's doing. And you've put so much work into what you're doing. You're putting so much work, especially if you're working with Rita. You are working a lot on your business. And so you want to get it out there. And getting in front of the media to get in front of people is really the best marketer that you can have. You can spend money on advertising. You can spend money on, Google ads and Facebook ads and boosting posts and all of that. But if you get in front of the media, it's probably a lot more challenging, might be a little bit more expensive, but it's definitely going to be what catapults it the most, what brings everything to the next level the fastest. And so then once you decide, maybe I'm thinking about media, it's going through the different types of media. I've had clients that say, I just want to do podcasts. I've had clients that say, I just want to write articles. I just want to do TV. So when I say things are tailored, that's why there's no one size fits all. It's really tailored to whatever your goal is. You start there. Think of your goal. Think of your media goal. My media goal is to try to be seen as a thought leader in my arena, right? Whatever it is. And then then we go through and think of who your target audience is, and then what that audience is listening to, watching, and reading, right? So, and I always say, don't dismiss local media. Local media is really where it all begins, with local newspapers, local magazines, local TV, local radio. Really hit local media as much as you can with things. And because people love to hear about stuff in their backyard and stuff, people in their communities that are doing really great, awesome things. And so local news is definitely one of those places to turn to. But it really depends on what your goal is as to what media is the right type of media for you. Radio and podcasts are the best ways to sell books, for example. They really are. I remember being in the back of a New York City cab when we were listening to NPR, and both the driver and I think we were pulling up to my stop, and both the driver and I sat there and finished listening to this radio interview that we'd been listening to the whole time. And it was riveting. And I was totally captured. I wish I could remember the name of the book. I'll have to look it up. But he and I looked at each other and we're like, this guy's great. We're totally going and ordering his book now. And I think we both did the next day. I was like, oh, I really want to read this book. So radio and podcasts are the best sellers for books. That doesn't mean that's the only thing you do, but it's definitely part of the whole publicity plan. But those are little tips and tricks that publicists just know. Yes, Rita.
Katie, let me ask. Let's stop for a minute. Ask some questions. I'm gonna ask you some questions, and then we'll see if you want to ask the audience any questions. But what are some of the reasons that you have had clients use the media, right? We know sell books, and people always say get clients, right? I'm hoping to get clients and sell books. So it seems to be the two big things. But what are some other reasons why people might not even think of that they would want to be on the news?
I think one thing that people definitely don't give enough of a thought to is not just getting clients, but it can lead to clients, is being seen as a thought leader in your space. So getting out there with ideas around your expertise or around your business and what it does, but it's not directly getting clients, because there's no exact correlation way to calculate, spending time and effort on publicity is going, and getting in the media is going to equal an X number of clients. I wish there was. I wish there was a magic way to say, I can guarantee you 5 new clients. It just doesn't work that way. Or I can guarantee you're going to sell 500 books in such amount of time. But if you are being seen as a thought leader in your space, then people, the credibility piece is being built up. And that's what people are going to glom onto. And then they're going to go to your website. Then they're going to go buy your book. Then they're going to, think about what your services are. And they could even pass your name on to other people, or they're going to start following you. There's other ways that it can help with getting to your overall goal, is just being seen as a thought leader in your space. And so you might end up doing an interview or writing a piece on something that really doesn't have anything to do with what your business is, but it's in your arena and it's in your space, and it's something that you can be seen as either tipping the scale against something, getting people to think about it, or just a good thought leader piece on a particular topic.
Cool. And I'm curious, and you guys can just answer in the chat if you want, or you could unmute yourself. But I'm curious, what are your feelings about the media? Does it scare you? Does it excite you? Is a certain kind of media exciting to you, but another kind terrifying? I'm kind of curious, if any feel really good to you, really bad to you, if you kind of feel I want to do it. I know I need to do it, but it scares me. What comes up for you guys? So Lisa says, I love podcasts. I'm afraid of TV. I love So who else? How do you feel about media? Let's see. Radio's great. Virginia says TV is scary. See, this is it. Radio's great. TV terrifies me, right? So many people, right? Yeah. Anybody else? What about writing articles or being published? Is that scary to anybody? Believe it or not, that can be scary to people to think about writing and pitching. Karen's I worry what I'll look like. So appearance on the media, right? Yeah, that's definitely something too. Okay, cool. I was just kind of kind of curious about that. I wanted to get a feel of that. And then Katie, I imagine that when you're pitching yourself for something like, I just want to be a thought leader. I really want to speak at this conference, where I know that if I'm a thought leader, right, they're going to like take me as like a keynoter as opposed to a breakout speaker, where breakout speakers are for people that are trying to get clients, right? And like keynoters are, so I imagine how you position yourself and where you position yourself is also different for that, or no, not necessarily?
No, it is. It definitely is different. And that's why I say, you know, it's really different for everybody. And it is interesting that everybody says they're afraid of TV, because it is putting yourself out there the most, for sure. It is the scariest. But once you do it, it's really not that scary. Right, Rita? I mean, it's really...
But I also was not scared of it. So you're actually
true. You were all in, for sure. But if you work with somebody who is, you know, if TV is, you know, part of what you want to do for your publicity, but you're just scared of it, there are ways that you should be working with somebody to do some media training, to go through it, to practice, to get all the tips and tricks to make it a little less scary, for sure.
And I do love that you said there's not a direct correlation between media and getting clients, because, right, that was one question I asked, like, wow, you must be like swamped and inundated since appearing on I'm like, no, not really. I don't think I got a single kind of client. I got some members in my Facebook group, right, and some people on my newsletter list, but I did not get, you know, a client from that yet, right? But people trickled in, or people, but that's why I'm so glad Katie's going to talk to us today about also like kind of some tips at the end of leveraging it, right? Because it doesn't just end when you walk out of the news studio. And I think it's really important, because that's the thing that I know with Katie as my client, that when we talk about her business, I know that that's something she encounters quite a lot from her clients, which are, but I need to see a direct return right away from you, my publicist, in terms of money through the door. And it's like setting the expectations, I think, becomes so important, that that's just not the way the industry works. It can, but it's usually not the way that it works. It's not going to be an immediate financial return unless you're kind of like on Oprah with Oprah's favorite things and you've got a product, right? And then maybe, so.
Right, unless it's something really, really huge, which, you know, those do come along, and we do really great things with those. But yeah, the amplification of your media exposure is really important, really important. And that's the piece that I can help people with, but I can't do it for them. So I guide people and give them ideas and what to do. But that's really something that when somebody commits to doing media, if you really want to do something with it, how to amplify it after you have an article clip or a TV clip or radio podcast, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I know that that's going to be really valuable. So anyway, okay, continue. I just like to check it, especially with a small group like this. Like, I like to kind of like check in, and
it's good to know that people are a little nervous and scared about TV, but that's something that we can definitely work on, for sure. So one of the things I wanted to go over too is how the media thinks versus how you think. They are very different. So I'm going to throw something in the chat here, because I'm going to go through these. And this is where people say, I pitched myself and got nowhere with it, blah, blah, blah. Well, what is in your pitch? And what's in it is really important. It goes all the way back to know who your target audience is, right? So,
and I am going to interrupt just for a minute. For anybody watching the replay, or who are here live, don't worry about, I'm going to send the chat record for this particular one along with the video. So you will have access to the actual Word document of the chat. So you don't need to worry about writing down every single thing that you see there. You're going to get the actual chat file, just so you know.
Yeah, so you guys don't have to worry about memorizing it either from the chat. So how you think and how the media think are actually very different fundamentally. And it's a matter of coming together to the middle and finding a middle ground that gives the media what they're looking for, but also is going to service you and what you're looking to get out of it also. So how you think my passion, my book, my message, my business, how I can reach my audience, how I can drive more people to my message, to buy my book, to sign up for my business, whatever it is. How a reporter thinks. What does my audience want to know? What do I or they care about? Conflict, controversy, struggle, confrontation, two sides to every story, and of course, ratings, especially for TV ratings, or if it's a podcast, downloads, or if it's, you know, an article, how many shares do they have? So there is a way to come to a middle ground between those two things. And part of it is just understanding how the media thinks, right? Like giving them a little bit of what they're looking for. I should also put in here that they're looking for help with background and research. That's always very helpful, is they're looking for a statistic or a study or something, or a trend that you can point to, even from another article that's happened recently. If you can help them do their homework, then they really love you. And it just helps beef up what you're trying to get across to them and shows that you've really put some effort into what you're sending them. Does anybody have any questions, first of all, about how the media thinks? And then we'll get into how you can kind of weave your message into how the media thinks. If anybody has questions, just either throw it in the chat or unmute.
So I'll ask a question while I'm waiting for people to feel comfortable enough to ask their questions, which is like, so one thing a reporter thinks, right, is about confrontation. So a lot of people I know in my community say that's kind of half the reason why they're afraid of the media, is that they're scared that they're going to come on thinking one thing and the media is going to blindside them and like make them come out to look like the evil person, or, you know, like I think I'm on talking about whatever. And then, because that's what we see in TV, right? Like the people, and it happens, but like people think I'm just going to show up thinking that it's going to be great and they're going to love me. And then all of a sudden they're going to make me look like the evil corporate, whatever, or the evil. So they're afraid of how news likes to spin things and how the media likes to spin things. What's the reality in that?
The reality is, unless you're a politician or a very well-known brand that they're out to get somehow, that's really not going to be an issue. They're not out to make people look bad. They're not out to make themselves look bad. They're out to make themselves look smart, right? To look smarter, because I'm talking to this really smart person who knows what they're talking about, or has a great idea, or has a great book, or whatever. So that makes me look smart because I'm talking to them. If they are out to get, I mean, that's if you're a politician and you're on MSNBC. I mean, but like most media, that's not really the case. It's not really the situation. They're not going to make you look bad. We go over all the details ahead of time. Everybody knows and is very clear about the segment ahead of time, even if they change the topic, which they do, as Rita knows, but we still, you know, and they change the questions at the last minute, but the fundamentals of the interview are not to have a gotcha type of interview at all. For live interviews, it just really doesn't happen with most people.
Yeah, that's cool. And it is, I will say, it's very prepared. Like I knew all the talking points, you know, going in, and I knew. Now they did switch my questions the morning up, but they came over to me and they let me see the new questions and
right.
talk about it. So it's very prepared. You don't have to worry about feeling like you're thrown under the bus. Let's see. Karen says, I'm thinking about creating a press kit. Is that, Karen, I think you messed up. Something about a press kit, providing questions and answers for the media. Is that true? Karen, why don't you unmute yourself? Tell us what you meant.
Sorry about that. I was trying to think while I was listening to Katie, and yeah, total short circuit up here. I've been researching putting together a press kit to put out to groups, whoever. Not really totally understanding, do I just hand that to them and then I follow up, or what happens? But one of the things that they mention about being in a press kit is having questions that maybe the media would want answered, and then providing the answer right there, kind of to, I guess, pique their curiosity, or a little bit of doing a little bit of their research or their questions for them and such. And I was just trying to get a feeling for what that is.
So a press kit can be a couple of different things, but it's always a great tool. I definitely think for you specifically, for a book and a brand you're trying to build, a press kit is great. It's typically not going to be questions that, well, you know, I would come up with questions that are not questions you would do in an interview, but maybe some other types of questions that are more general, basic questions that you can just answer for somebody right off the bat. And it's definitely great for adding into a press release. So if you were putting out a press release about the book, you could definitely say, and here's my press kit that has other information. And I can send you some examples of some good press kits
Great.
that I think might help. But they're really to give people a snippet into who you are and to what your message is.
Okay.
So I think it's good to just have it stay on message.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if you've had other press in the past, that's a great place to put it.
Well, I'm not sure what I understand what you mean by that. Like if
you've had other articles or other press mentions in the past about,
I gotcha. Okay.
about anything, really. Just if you've been in the press in the past, list those in the press kit with links and all of that.
Gotcha.
Where you've done speaking, even if it's at the local, you know, book or the local library or whatever it is, you can list all of those in there.
Okay.
So it's a good place to put all that stuff. But yeah, some Q&A where you answer questions is definitely a good idea.
Okay.
Thank you, Kate. So, Kate, so regarding how you think, right, which is my passion, my book, my message, how can I reach my audience? How can I drive more people to me? And the media is thinking like, look, we need like ratings and we need our audience to be entertained, right?
Yep. Yes.
It's a lot about entertainment.
I think that's actually the biggest conflict. If I had to say anything, it's we want the audience to be educated so that they feel like we're these experts and they come to us and want to work with us. Media wants people to feel like they're entertained, right? So then the happy middle between that is what? I guess
they like to educate also, but it needs to be timely and something that they think is interesting to their audience. So something that's happening or a trend or just something that's different that they haven't seen before, and make it as interesting. It doesn't have to have conflict and controversy. If it does, if you can kind of spin it, and it's not going to be conflict or controversy about your business. It's going to be conflict or controversy about the topic that you're writing on. So I had a client who was on TV in Phoenix this week who was talking about, in the wake of the mass shootings that we just had, how to not let it completely derail you and make you depressed. He's a clinical psychologist who says, you know, there are little things like we definitely need to grieve, we need to help, we need to reach out and support each other, but there are ways and little tips and tricks that you can do to make yourself feel a little bit happier and a little bit lighter in the face of real tragedy, right? So we took his concept of happiness, because he had this whole idea about happiness, how to be happy instantly. We took that idea, and that's one of the things that he teaches in his business. We took that idea, we brought in a little bit of struggle, right? Like people struggle with how to deal with the mass shootings internally, made it a little less scary for people. So it's kind of struggle and conflict and all of that. And we made it relevant, and it's something the audience would want to know. And he had really simple tips that people could do. Like instead of walking on the sidewalk looking down at your feet, if you can, just look up. He said it's really hard to be upset looking up at the sky, like literally looking up like this. But, so we took something that didn't really have conflict, controversy, struggle in it at first because it was about happiness, right? But we took part of it and made it into something that the media would then go, oh, yeah, that's actually really interesting. We would like to help. And that was more of a educational piece. Like it wasn't super entertainment value. It didn't have a high entertainment value. If you can put a higher entertainment value on something, that's always great. But if it doesn't, they still do want to educate people on things like that. So that's an example of kind of how to fit that into your own message. And he also has a book, and he brought his book and he showed it in front of the camera. He gave out copies to people in the news station. So,
yeah, that's a perfect example of the happy middle, right? Which was he wanted to talk about his concept of happiness and like get that out there and get his book out there. They want it's got to like have some entertainment, some conflict, some ratings, and the middle then comes from like the pointers for people I think to take away. Tell me if I'm wrong, Katie, are take what your message is and what you do and find trending events, find trending topics, find trending things that are happening in the world and apply it to those things, which may or may not necessarily be exactly what you do, right? So like a great example of that is I am a coach for business owners. I don't even have children, right? But Great Day Washington wanted me to come on to give tips to parents about how they could set their high schoolers up for success in the new year. I am a success coach, right? A business mentor and success coach. They had me speak to parents of children about setting their children up for success. It was the same exact tips and pointers that I would give a business owner, right? But because it's back to school time, that was the relevant angle, right? So sometimes I think the happy middle is like taking it, right? But I love your points of timely, right? That it's intentional to their audience and that it's different to them, right? But the timely piece I think is huge. I love your example you told the other day. And so if you could say it here, just in case people missed it, about your client in Slack to show a really great idea of controversy.
That's my favorite recently was I had a client, and you're exactly right. It's just taking your message, not necessarily exactly what you even do for your business or not exactly what your book is about, but taking themes, right? Themes from your business or your message or your book and trying to find the relevancy to something that's trending or happening or timely, or, it could be a national remembrance of whatever day. Like there's always a national whatever day, and the media, especially TV, loves that. That was Rita's original idea. So, but I had a client recently who he's a online marketing expert. And we were just having a conversation, and he was talking about how he really doesn't like Slack, and how Slack is like, one of those things that it's just the worst because it's a productivity killer, because we're in this age of like, we have to respond to things left, right, like instantly, right? So we never actually take the time to sit down and concentrate on just one thing because we're getting bombarded with Slack messages all day long. And, the national calendar. Perfect. I was going to put that in there. So we were just talking, it really doesn't pertain to his business at all, but we were talking about Slack. He uses Basecamp like Rita does, and talked about how it was better. And so he and I worked out where I actually respond to him on things through Basecamp, and not through Slack. And then I saw that Slack was going public on a certain day, and I messaged him and I said, hey, Slack's going public. I think you should take how you think Slack is a productivity killer for business owners or for business executives and write a whole article about it. And he did. He loved that idea. He was like, oh, this is great. I get to, diss Slack on the day that they go public. And we got it published in Entrepreneur. It was a byline article written by him. That was the top article when you went on to entrepreneur.com that day. So, and it got hundreds of shares, and he was really excited about it, but it really didn't even pertain exactly to his online marketing business. But now he's building credibility to be seen as a thought leader in his space. And so he can be like, oh, we're, as seen in Entrepreneur Magazine, and say, did you guys see my article? And all of that, he can promote it. And it builds his credibility as a business owner himself, for sure. So that's, one of my favorite recent examples too, is that it can be just anything that you feel strongly about, that you feel like you can really back up, and things that go against the grain actually a little bit is something that works really well in the media. I mean, Entrepreneur was super excited to put it up there right as Slack's IPO went public.
Poor Slack. Yeah. So
poor Slack. Okay, they're doing fine.
So point one, what Katie was saying, right, just to kind of recap, and then we'll get to the next, is the media thinks differently than we think, but there's a happy medium, and the medium involves this kind of like compromise a little bit, but also looking broader than maybe what you do while still staying true to the core components of how you do it, what you do, what's important, and making it timely. So I put the National Calendar Day link in there. Do you have any other suggestions for how people can stay up on trending things so that
I think when you go through the exercise of figuring out what media you want to target, you just start really paying attention to that media and looking at what they write about and how they do it. But if it's for print online, most big magazines and online publication, most magazines that have an online publication, they actually have a content calendar for each magazine for a whole year. So in January, they'll put on their website what they're going to concentrate on for each month or whatever, however often. So like Cosmo, if you go on their website, you can find their content calendar probably on their press page. And it will say they're going to be concentrating on this for this month, that for that month. And so you can kind of figure out how you fit in to any of those themes or those categories. That's one other just little tip.
Woo. Thank you.
So any other questions on any of that, on how you think and how the media thinks? Because it really is one of, I think, the best gifts that I could give you guys is to try to think like the media. If you can put yourself in their shoes and say, why would I want to watch this segment? Why would I want to read this article? Why would Rita want to read this article? Think of how you can hook people in that way. So it's not so much my expertise, my, and think of it like a little bit of who your audience is, and pay attention to that. And then when you pitch it that way, you kind of done the work for them. Again, with some stats and background, you've done the work for them and kind of, makes the segment or the article kind of a no-brainer for them.
So I see I'm sorry. I was going to ask Heather's question. She typed it into chat real quick, and then we'll come to your question, Karen. So Heather, who I see the top of your head, Heather, she says, I wonder as an interior designer, there she is. How can I talk without doing like basic stuff? My market is more high-end. So she's a high-end interior designer, right? So how could she kind of get in front of the right audience, right? Without just talking about, here are some very simple, basic design tips, right? Or do you think that doesn't hurt her?
So it depends on who your audience is.
And Heather, feel free to unmute yourself and you can talk to Katie directly.
Yeah. So this kind of goes to what I was going to talk about next, is what media to pitch and kind of figuring out your audience. So it really, talk without doing basic stuff. What do you mean by higher end? What does that mean?
Well, you'll never find me working with people who want gray walls, barn doors, and pallets on walls. That's not me. I'm like the Miles Red of Loudoun County. Luxurious textures, textiles, the mix the unexpected, moody rooms, green velvet sofas, velvet curtains, brass, gold, that kind of stuff.
Okay. So to get to your audience, do you think that, So I would back into it as then who is your audience in terms of trying to attract those types of clients? So what do they watch, listen, and read?
Yeah, well, when
and
I worked
trying to figure that out, then you
Yeah.
figure out what type of article or segment might attract those types of people, and then we figure out, through the, what types of media that you would want to go after, and then that kind of determines what your topics would be and how you would go about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I mean, when I think back to the house, when I did Selma Mansion, I did this couple's home before they had Selma Mansion, and her magazines were things like Veranda, Architectural Digest, the Rob Report, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, those are very hard to get in. I know sometimes they have live tenders and you can get in for $800, but Architectural Digest has changed so much. I'm not really interested in getting there. Even Home and Design magazine, which is local, is kind of a pay-to-play thing. And I don't really want to get up there and say, oh, these are the trends, because I don't do trends. I don't want to do, oh, here's a vignette on TV for how to do your fall decor, because people can look on Pinterest and find that out. It's House Beautiful came out with the top 50 tips from interior designers a couple issues ago. And one of the comments that I got, what I saw on the Instagram was, man, I wish you could come up with some different tips, because these are all the same ones you keep putting out all the time.
So it's more of like not your average fall decor, or not your average interior design tips. And I love that, because you could give them something that's different and goes against the grain and is not your typical. And that's what gets people noticed. Like, that's what would set you apart is, start making your list of, here's how I'm different. Like, print out those articles, look at what their tips are, and then cross them out and write your list and write what you think you would want people to know about how they should be doing things, and how you can kind of tip the scales a little bit and be like, you know what, actually, if you want to spice up, if a gray wall is boring to you, because it's boring to me by now, you want to spice things up, here's how you can do that. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
There's lots of room for that. Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I like that, because it also then would hook the right people, right? Like, people who are like, like, you're like, what was her name on Trading Spaces? He'll be right. I know, like, Hilda, you're gonna put moss all over my wall, I'm out of here. But then some people are like, she's like the best ever, and I have to watch everything she does, right? Just the angle of the article would attract the right people that could be potential clients for what you do, because they're the ones that would be interested in, oh, good, like, not the norm, not the tradition, something different. I love that.
Oh, I'd love for you to also branch out a little bit and have it be more of like a Washington Life magazine or Washingtonian,
Sometimes
like those.
I do hashtag that if I remember, or DC, whatever. I've tried to get into house calls, or whatever that's called, the weekly judge up a space thing, but that hasn't worked out. And part of my jig is this hair. Everybody recognizes me by my hair, and it's not a normal thing. I am not normal. You come to my house, I'm sitting on a sapphire blue velvet sectional, and I have leopard striped drapes and leather chairs with, antique brass snails on them next to one of those, elephant tables in black from the Philippines in 1960s. So I love the fact that everybody likes white kitchens, but there's something beyond that.
Well, I think that is the great angle, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Actually, not everybody does love white kitchens, and the media is feeding this to you. So let me feed you something else. I love it. So
here's things you can think about if you actually don't want a white kitchen, or if you don't want to do gray, or whatever. So
I love it. And I love your tip, Katie, of really reverse engineer it and think, and this is such a great market research. So to get to the Rita part of this is a great market research question to ask your audience. Like, and when you're like, if you're around them and if you notice, but what blogs do you read? What publications are you reading? What shows do you watch? What news shows do you watch? What podcasts do you listen to?
What do you read?
Show you where to put yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you for asking that, Heather. Thank you.
And then Karen had a question.
Yeah, I did. Going back to what you were talking about, Katie, about finding things that are on trend and making it fit with whatever your business is. If you're going to pitch this to some type of media, how do you have any sense of how much lead time to either get it to them early or, I don't know about publication. I don't know how long that takes. So how would I know when to give it to them?
So the lead time really depends on the type of media.
Okay.
I usually say if it's TV, it's anywhere from 2 weeks. 1 week, I got Rita on, and literally a week after pitching her, anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks. And then print online is about a month. And then if it's just in print, if it's a magazine, if it's a long lead magazine, that's 6 months out.
Wow.
Podcasts are 2 to 3 months. Usually. Wow. Podcasts are kind of all over the place right now, but I would say that most podcasts, depending on how often they do them, like some people only do their podcast every other week or once, or it's not really that scheduled, or if it's once a week, they book out usually months in advance. So if it's for TV, it needs to be super duper timely. Like it needs to be happening now.
Right.
As soon as the mass shootings happened and I talked to my client, he was on TV this past week. So if it's 2 to 3 months, like I'm also pitching for print online right now for people for holiday stuff. Like, it was back to school, but now that's already happening. So if it's even with TV, they're not really doing back to school as much. Maybe a little bit, but that was kind of in the last couple of weeks. Now we're transitioning into fall and holidays.
Right.
So we're thinking of fall and holiday angles, which is a wealth. I love this time of year pitching because there's so much to do with fall and holidays. And I love it when people have things that are different, and it's, it's not just how to not gain 10 pounds at the holidays, like, or whatever it is, like if you can come up with something a little different, it's so great. But so does that help at all? And for book launches, that really depends on what you want to do, but sending the media advance copies usually at least 6 weeks before your book comes out is just kind of a rule of thumb.
Okay. Along that line then, that was kind of leads into my next question, which was, I don't have the book in my hands at this point, literally. Some point soon I hope to have a draft of it, but I don't have it yet. Do I go ahead and say, hey, I'm out here, I'm looking to put something together with you anyway?
Not until you have advance copies.
Okay.
You really need to have advance copies to send them. And then with an advance copy, I would do a press release. And I would do, if you can, a little like handwritten note to say, I thought you might be interested in this, but that just shows that you go like a little bit of the extra mile to say hi to whoever you're sending it to. But I definitely would wait until you have advance copies. You can pitch people and let people see your press release. They will ask for advance copies. So it's, it can be that they're coming out. You will get them in a week. And so people understand it takes time to get everything and ship it and whatever, but it needs to be very close to either getting them or already having them.
Cool. Okay, so because we're at like 4:15, we're probably gonna go over just a few minutes because we started a few minutes later, but I just want to, at this point, like I'm gonna let Katie get through her final kind of point, I think we're done to the third point, right? Like get through her final part, and then we're gonna have the open Q&A at the end. So at this point, like jot down any questions you have, and then if Katie has like, I know she might have an interactive activity to do, and I want to get to that. So at this point, I'm just gonna be like not ignoring you. I want Katie to get everything in.
So I wanted to go over a little bit more about what media outlets you should pitch, because I get that question a lot. And like I was saying before, we did go over this a little bit, but I was saying before, it really depends on your audience, right? Like, who are you trying to reach? And if you can sort of figure that out, then you can kind of go through what media outlets you should try to be pitching. And it might be different than who you think. It might be different than, I really want to pitch the Today Show. Okay, well, I had a client actually who said he wanted to pitch the Today Show, and I was like, but your segment is speaking to men. Typically, the audience for the Today Show is women. So that's just, based on that alone, I didn't recommend pitching the Today Show. I pitched more towards men, men who in the audience, like that's who they're targeting. So you can try to figure out with your target kind of what, or with your target audience, like what media you should pitch for that. And it might be, like I said, it might be different than you think. I also wanted to get into making your message relevant again, because connecting your message and your business and making it relevant is the most important thing that you could do really with a pitch. But when you're going through your target media, it's really important to start listening to that podcast, start reading that publication, start really diving into it, because then you can kind of figure out what topics they cover, what kinds of topics they cover. And you could even play off of something they've already talked about. I have somebody who asked me recently, like, here's an article in Fast Company, and I completely disagree with it. And so how do I counter that article? And so, just paying attention to what they're talking and writing about. And I think that we're going to be able to put something out that is going to be pretty compelling, because it counters exactly what this other article points to. Because there's a lot of different opinions on things out there, especially when you're getting into thought leadership stuff. So it's good to be thinking about those. So, but I want you guys to really write down who you think your target audience is, what types of media might be good for that target audience, and then think of some news pegs, as we call them. Like, think of some news pegs that you could tie what you do to that particular type of media to reach that audience. That's kind of an exercise that I go through with people, and we kind of work it out and think it out, and come up with then a bunch of news pegs, and then think, oh, well, with this news peg, I can talk about this topic that I either feel strongly about, or that I saw written about recently that I want to weigh in on, or whatever it is. And so think about where, write down what some news pegs might be. And if anybody wants to share them, please put them in chat. And one example, I'll give you one more example of an author who runs a company called Bright Line Eating, that she says it's not a diet book, but it's a more like a lifestyle change type of book. It's for people who are addicted to food, and it's a new plan, like an eating plan, but it goes into all kinds of different things with willpower. And she's a food psychologist, and she has a PhD in cognitive sciences. So she's like, really got the credentials behind her, really knows what she's doing. She has these this, I think she has 2 books now, but on her first book, we took a lot of ideas even before her book was coming out and tied it to what was going on. So we started her campaign in the fall. So we had Halloween and, you know, binging on candy and all of these different things that we pitched her to. And she got in Cosmo, she got in Women's Day, she got in Family Circle, Family Circus, like she got in everywhere talking about all the holiday eating stuff. And just a lot of it was about willpower, and it was a little bit different. And it was like, you know, let your kids splurge on Halloween candy, even if they, you know, shouldn't be eating candy every day, but kind of how to walk your kids through that and how to enjoy Thanksgiving and holidays and still stay on your eating plan. Like and it wasn't talking about bright line eating specifically, but just putting her thought leadership behind all the things that come up during those holidays. So my other challenge I was going to give you guys, although we're running out of time, is like, I say, if you had 1 minute to be in front of someone in the media, what would you say to them? How would you pitch them? And then know that you have 30 seconds. So you start out with 1 minute. Like if I had 1 minute to talk to a producer who was booking a segment, or a contributor for Fast Company or Inc. or Forbes, you know, I talk to those contributors all the time. You have 1 minute to tell them why they should listen to you. What would you say to them? And then again, realize you have 30 seconds. That I think is a good way to kind of hone what your message is in 1 minute, because that's what you're going to be putting down on paper, and they're going to spend 20 seconds reading your pitch and decide in 20 seconds if they want to continue with you or nah, trash it. So that was going to be the little exercise that we kind of went through with people, but I want to get to your questions. And then, because I know we're going to talk about amplification, and we did talk about entertainment. That was going to be my last thing, was just think about how you can make it interesting for an audience. Why would people want to watch this? Why would people care? You know, why does your neighbor care? Or, you know, bring it back to somebody you know and bring it to them and say, would you read this? Would you watch this if you knew it wasn't me? It needs to be that interesting and that entertaining, because that's what sells stories. That's what sells the media. That's what gets people to click and share, and all of that is that entertainment factor. So you definitely got to make that a piece of your pitch and a piece of your segment or whatever you're offering. So Rita, do you want to get to some of these questions?
Yeah, I've got, so, and also, I don't know about you, Katie, but I'm able to stay past the 4:30 in time just a little. So I want to get to the questions so people who can't will fall off, and then people who want to stick around and maybe do the 1 minute exercise can, right? So you can have that option. But I saw that Virginia said, what if all types of media could be appropriate? So she's a divorce mediator and a family mediator. So like, where would she start if technically all forms of media could be appropriate?
I would want to hear what some of the topics are and topics she would want to talk about or write about.
So Virginia, feel free to unmute yourself and just kind of answer what some of the topics might be.
Okay,
Yeah.
So the pitch is that a courtroom is a terrible place to solve a family problem. I'm helping ex-couples to solve problems and stay out of court. So I can talk a lot about divorce. I can talk a lot about co-parenting.
Okay.
I can talk a lot about other things too, but I'm trying to limit the list here.
Right. Yeah. No, that's good. So, so your target audience is probably, is it more women, or is it?
It's about 50-50.
Oh, it's 50-50.
It's people who were never married to each other, but they have a child together. They got to come up with a co-parenting plan. They've got to figure out child support. And then also people whose relationships have gotten very troubled. You know, sometimes mediators can help them figure out what to change in the relationship so that they're going to be happier staying together. And more often, they don't even call me until it's too late for the marriage, and then I'm helping them figure out the terms of their divorce.
Mm. So it's parents, it's people who are married, people in relationships just in general. It sounds like you would have some really great tips for print online and podcasts. I definitely would see, articles that you could write that would be helpful for people. In all kinds of different publications, in a lot of mainstream publications, everything from Reader's Digest to, I'm sure there's definitely tons of parenting podcasts. And there's tons of podcasts around that are about relationships and marriage too. Because it is more, yours is more of a discussion. It's not, you can do quick tips. It's more of a discussion, right? So that's why podcasts are perfect for that, because that's where you can really spend some time in a discussion with somebody about it and, really give some value that way.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome.
So Katie, let's get to leveraging, because I know a couple of people had that as a question, and I have some questions people emailed me who couldn't be here live, and then we'll get to Karen's question. I got Karen's question, I got more questions. We got questions for days. But I know Rashida has been waiting anxiously for the leveraging piece, and I don't want her to be sad, but I think we all need that because it happens quickly. And already, my window is passing to leverage mine, and Katie gave me an assignment that I have to do this week, and I've got it on my calendar to do it tomorrow. So, to leverage your media. So let's talk about that a little bit.
So I'll use you as my first example. Once Rita was on, or once you're on TV, we'll start with TV, but it's the same no matter what type of media exposure it is, whether it's an article or a podcast, it doesn't really matter. What do you do with it, right? How do you let people know? You plaster it everywhere. So you literally, but I would come up with a plan on how to do it. And first, it's that you're so excited to share that you were Entrepreneur's biggest trending article today. I'd really love for you to read how I think, even though Slack went public, it's not the end all be all and is a productivity killer. Did you guys know that? Try to make it as engaging as possible. Obviously, it's social media. Put it on your websites. Make sure you have a press page. Once you get 2 or 3 things, make sure you put it on a press page. And in a press kit. And one of the biggest things that I say, though, is once you're done that initial posting of whatever it is, make sure you go back. And this is what I gave Rita homework to do, is go back and think of things that you said in the article, or, in the interview or the article, that could still be relevant to what you're discussing. I said to Rita, what was one of the tips that you gave in your interview that you might be discussing that week, or how does it fit into your content calendar that you already have, that you're like, oh, you know what, this week I'm concentrating on how to, I don't remember, what's one of your tips coming up, Rita?
No, so it's don't wait to celebrate.
Don't wait to celebrate. So when she talks about that, let's say it's on her content calendar for 2 weeks from now, pull that clip from that article, post it back up there. As I was talking about when I was on Channel 9, it doesn't have to be that you were on the news, but you just say, as I said in this interview, and it's still relevant today, here's my tip that I talked about. I'm going to be talking about it all week this week, or I'm going to be writing an article that goes along with it, and just keep posting snippets from that article. I had someone, it was another publicist. I told this story the other day. I had another publicist who used an interview that he did on TV. He had on a tie that had, I think it had dogs or horses or something all over it. And he posted it in his social media to be like, guys, when I was on channel 4, was this tie too distracting? What do you think? And then people clicked on the interview and watched it. Like, I don't know if they actually like were paying attention to what he was saying in the interview, but the interview was about like some tech, advice about something, about turning off your notifications or something. But like, he just found something about that interview to then put out there again 2 weeks later. So it's like taking different sections of your article or of your interview and just reposting it based on the content that's in that interview or article. Does that help, Rashida? You're on mute, babe.
I'm here. Yeah, that was really helpful, and that gives me a lot to work with. Just one more quick follow-up question. So because I'm in transition, and a lot of the stuff that I have from media is like related to the concierge service and households management / working mom stuff, does all of that carry over and you still want to pull pieces from anything that you've done? Okay.
Yes, because that's still part of your credibility piece. It's still something you've done. It should still be on your website press page. It should still be something you pull from, definitely. Just because you're kind of shifting doesn't mean it doesn't make up you as a person.
Yeah.
So I think definitely, you should definitely do that.
And let me ask you a question, Rashida. Is it still the same kind of like broader topics that would still be like applicable? You had like the reason people would have used your concierge service or something was a broader topic reason, right? Like, and so are you speaking on those broader topics still?
Kind of.
Like, if productivity is one, or like,
right.
Something like that. Like, it would relate, right? It would still relate, so you could still do that. And also, like, I'll just say from the point of view of like getting paid to speak and making speaking a career, right? Most speakers, the way that they make money isn't through getting paid to speak. It's like a very small, they can actually make a living from getting paid to speak. It's what you sell when you're speaking. It's like what program, what product, what search. So if you're going to have like anything like that you're positioning, consulting or coaching or like other things that come to you, like what would that be? Broader topics, right? And then like pull pieces out of your interview to kind of help position those things as well. Right?
Yep.
So
yeah, definitely. And I would say for you, it's going to be about, it's not going to be that you're a speaker. It's not going to be that you had this business. It's going to be what some of the trends and themes are that you'll be speaking about. Okay. And that can be some things that you pull as topics and then try to figure out how they kind of fit into something going on, timely or relevancy or interesting, trending, whatever it is.
Okay.
But yeah, I think there's definitely going to be stuff that, and if you have specific questions, we'll share ways to reach out to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you feel complete with that? Like that's such a coaching question. Do you feel complete with that? Or I want to make sure that you feel like good, like you've got enough to go run and do like the minute you get off this.
I was going to say, yes, there's always more, but I definitely have a great place to start. Those things I can do today. Like I'm thinking of the content calendar and how I can, even old stuff in there to kind of build that out. So yes, I'm going to get on
and
that.
Because it might be a different audience than if you posted it a year ago. It's a completely different audience now. So just revamp it for them. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
People dig up old content and make it relevant all the time. And that's such a great tactic.
Yeah, no, I love it. Okay, cool. Okay, good. Rashida knows. I'm like, do you feel good? Like you can take action the minute you hang up. I like go do something right away because that's what I want you to do. I want you to go do it right away. So, cool. And like,
do you want to talk about, before we answer the rest of the questions, how people can get more in touch with me and what
Yeah. So what I want to tell people in case you have to fall off, right, is that the special thing that I got Katie took her. So I was talking to her and I like cajoled her a little bit. So because she wasn't actually doing this at all before. So like, this is a thing she is now doing because of this thing. She has created a 90-minute intensive where you can meet with her one-on-one as her business coach. I priced this at $497, but for you guys, because you know me and my sevens, she's giving it to you for $397 if you want it, right? But the 90-minute intensive is a chance for you to meet one-on-one with Katie, to deep dive into positioning yourself for a pitch, right? Like really getting a plan together. So Katie, you can talk more in detail about what will happen during the 90 minutes.
So during the 90-minute, we do a lot of what we talked about today in terms of starting with what your goals are, going all the way through the whole process in terms of what then your media goal is, who your target audience is, who your target media is, what some pitch topics are, and then how to, like, I'll actually give you, like, I think this is a really good topic and you should tie it to this. And I have a whole workbook that walks you through that as well, that we can do together, and you can also do it kind of on your own. And then there's a pitch template that's also with that, and then a bunch of helpful hints too when pitching yourself. So I really dive in to what all, like, it's so tailored that it's hard for me, as you can see, it's hard for me to give generalities in terms of what should be good for somebody, because it really depends. Everybody's message and stuff is different. So we really dive right into all of that, and I try to just learn as much as I can, and so that we can set you on a path to feeling more comfortable about your media intention.
Yeah, I'll say that it was a 90-minute session with Katie that got me on Great Day Washington in 10 days, right? It was just kind of like, cool, let's get the concept, let's get the points down, let's get what this ultimately does for you, let's like get it in the pitch formula, let's do this, and let's like get it ready. And yeah, I had added on Katie actually pitching it for me, but then you'd have the tips, right, to be able to go forth. And also, one thing she didn't mention that I got her to agree to do is 1 week of email support after the 90-minute intensive as well, so that you can ask questions related to what you guys talked about in the intensive as you're out there and you're implementing it. So if media is really something and you really want to get together kind of that first boilerplate kind of like idea and concept and template and go through it so you know how to do it, like this is a great deal. Like this is a really, really good deal. Like,
it is a good deal. It's going to be all week.
Yeah.
And usually I had half-day intensives, and because it really takes that long to go through all the pitch topics, and I usually write the pitch for somebody or with somebody, and then there's options to do it like pitching yourself, or I'll pitch it for you. But yeah, Rita convinced me to do some 90-minute sessions with people. It's kind of like an extension of today.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I knew there were going to be more questions, more individual people needed. I wanted you guys to have it like easily accessible, but also not like where Katie's just filling up her time like with like free like advice, because as a business coach that would not be good for me to advise you to do. So this was like the happy compromise, right? So again,
it's not a huge commitment. Like if you're still just trying to figure out and figure through this stuff, it's not a huge commitment. So
yeah, it can help you at least get clarity about what your message may be, what your angle may be, like which media outlets might be right for you. So again, instead of the $497, it's going to be $397 if you purchase it through till Sunday, right? Isn't that through Sunday?
Yeah. And I just put the link. Oh no.
Perfect.
Private to you. Hold on.
Yep. Okay. She'll put the link in the chat. We're going to send it out with the recording of the video. It comes again with the workbook, a pitch template, tips when you're pitching yourself, and 1 week of email support with Katie as well. So now let's get to some more questions. And I know there's a question up there, but I want to ask the ones from people who emailed, and then we'll get to the final ones here, which is pay to play. And I did hear somebody bring this up. I think it was Heather, right? And I know that this is going on right now heavily in like the internet radio podcasting thing, where there are companies saying, hey, if you pay us $2,000, we're going to put you on this show and we're going to like help you like get paid. And there's Forbes Council, which is like pay us every month and then you can write an article and your articles can be featured. And so I think there's some different opinions and confusion around, do I have to pay to be on the media? Should I have to pay on the media? Is that a scam? Is that not a scam? Like, talk about that a little bit.
It's not a scam. It's definitely just a way for them to make money. I stay away from those for the most part. The Forbes Council is different, but if you do the Forbes Council, you are not going to be able to get in Forbes organically for a while. And when it's seen as Forbes Council, people know, at least people in the know, in the industry, know that that was something you paid to do. That's really the only one that I would recommend if it's right for your business kind of looking at. But again, you're probably not going to be able to get on organically in Forbes if you're in the council. So
and I would say do your research, right? Like research it, because some are like I know that there is one out there that's saying, hey, pay us and we're gonna like, and they don't even have an audience and they don't have a following and they don't, so like anything, guys, like do your but you don't have to pay to be in the media. There are plenty of free media opportunities.
I would say don't pay to be in the media. I would say try it organically first and get, earned media, as we call it, instead of paying for it. I wouldn't pay for it.
And then I saw Heather bring up something, and somebody else had emailed me and asked this question about getting a recurring segment on a news show or getting a recurring column in some kind of publication. Is that different then, or is the first appearance a stepping stone too, or is that something a publicist helps with?
Oh yeah, we definitely can help with that. You really have to start with just one segment or one article or whatever, and then work your way into it that way. But it depends on the publication or the show or whatever. I think if you bring to the table a lot of really awesome and good ideas, then we can definitely work with seeing if there's something that could be more consistent in terms of getting you in there. So, because Forbes, for example, if you can get in there organically, they want people to post, and this is, people who are contributors. So that's being a contributor. And people who are contributors have to post and have content like every week. It's a lot. It's a lot of people after a year are just burnt out. Or I have one client who he literally outsourced it and has paid someone a lot of money to write his Forbes column. He gets paid a little bit for his Forbes column. They write one. He's in there 3 to 4 times a month, but he pays somebody quite a bit of money to do that for him. But it does help with credibility if you can say you're a contributor somewhere. But you do have steps to prove yourself before they'll consider you. And it depends on your following and how much you do with the article once it's posted. If you do a lot with it and you get a lot of shares, they're going to look and they're going to notice and they're going to be like, oh, they have 30,000 Instagram followers. Like, they can share it with that audience. That's a definite plus, and they're going to consider you for a contributorship even more.
And again, like social media following matters for things like this in terms of what the media cares about too, right?
Fortunately, they care a lot about it, especially the online publications.
Mm-hmm.
With Entrepreneur, I get asked to include all of that stuff, and they, even if I give them the numbers, they want to go and they will check themselves. So
to make sure.
Yep. It doesn't mean that if you don't have a big following, don't write it off. It just means it's going to be a little bit to get there. Whereas if you have the following already, they'll consider it a little bit quicker.
Which some of these other media appearances can help you get, right? So again, one of the points that we really want to stress is you don't have to be at a certain level in your business or certain years into your business or had media before to be able to do exactly what we're talking about today. Another question was, how do you know who to pitch at the places? So like, how do you know who to pitch at Entrepreneur? How do you know who to pitch at ABC? Like, how do you know who to email it to?
I mean, that's kind of where I come in. It's not I have a database that I pay a lot of money for that I can look up who somebody is at any media outlet across the country, or a blog or a podcast or really anywhere. It depends on if you're offering an interview, if you're offering a bylined article, if you're offering something to TV, to radio, to podcast. There's producers and editors are usually who make those decisions. But finding that person, if you don't have Katie, is a little more challenging, but it definitely can be done just through combing through their website and their press pages. The person who puts out their press releases is going to be somebody in their press office who might be able to guide you to the best. Finding the editors who are listed on certain articles that you're reading. Contributors usually will do Q&As with people. It's like as a type of interview, like a written Q&A or an over-the-phone Q&A with somebody. And so contributors usually in their bios on the websites usually list their email addresses. So there's just it depends on who it is, but there's little tips and tricks to finding it yourself. But it is a little bit harder when you don't have a Katie.
And I think just kind of looking at the credits, right? Who's the segment producer, or like who is the, looking at Twitter, who are the editors for different, sections of like online, like you have to do.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about Twitter. Twitter's a great resource because a lot of reporters are on there looking for stories and for resources on Twitter. Yeah, we didn't even get into that, but.
Well, now we just said it. So
there you go. But so
masterclass part 2, Katie. We might have to do a
The number one mistake people make is pitching the anchors on TV.
The anchors.
They don't make the decisions. It's bookers and producers. If it's local news, it's producers. If it's national news or something of a bigger audience, it's bookers and producers. So yeah, the worst thing people do is like, oh, I emailed so-and-so, and it's like, they don't make any of the decisions.
I know, look at that, right? Okay, and then one question in the chat was Karen. She just wanted to get those 3 points again about when you said which media outlets to pitch, you said kind of like 3 questions. Who is your target audience?
So you start with what your overall goal is. Then your media goal fits into that. Then your target audience. Then once you find your target audience, you figure out what type of media those people watch, listen, and read. Okay. And then you kind of back into what type of media you should be pitching based on that.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was the one. It was what had target audience. The last thing you talked about was what the news pegs would be.
And yeah, once you know, and so then once you know which media you're targeting, then you go and you pay attention to what they're putting out and kind of try to figure out what some news pegs or some trends might be for that particular outlet that they
Thank you.
have. Yeah, that's kind of my formula.
Good. Well, those were the questions that I had and that I saw. Does anybody else here have any other questions at all for Katie? Oh, and Katie, maybe we do need a masterclass part 2 of like the advanced masterclass for media or something next after all these people start getting on the media, right? So guys,
I'm excited. So many people are considering it and thinking about it. That in and of itself makes me really excited.
There were a lot of people who registered. There were a lot of people who messaged me saying, will there be a replay because I can't make it live. So I know there are, and if you go in the group when you have time and look at the poll that I put up there and interact with it a little, like comment, there are a lot of people who are really interested. And so I really appreciate you taking the time to be here with my audience today, especially for an hour and a half. And giving such great information, because I think we've all been to those classes before that are just one big sales pitch for a thing. And like, I had to make Katie sell something. I was like, no, like people are going to need more information and it's okay for them to pay for it. And you can make but it really is true that like we've all been there where it's like not really giving you any information at all and buy my thing to get all the information. What you gave us today was really valuable. And I really.
Oh, good. I'm so glad.
Yeah. So you guys, where can they follow you, Katie? Where are all the places?
So I am at ktmediastrategies.com. That's my Facebook page too, is KT Media Strategies, but also KT Media Booker is my Twitter, and also you can find me that way through Facebook too. Here, let me type it in, @KT Media Booker.
And for people listening, or I'm going to send this as well. When I send the video replay out a little bit later, Katie, don't forget to send me examples of press kits that maybe I can include, like a link or some samples of that there.
Yep.
Maybe a link to a Google Drive or something if that's it, or links to the press kits. The chat record of today, the link to the video, where to follow Katie, the 90-minute intensive information. You're going to get all of that when I send out the replay. So that will all be in there. And don't forget to, like, if you enjoyed this, if you found what Katie did to be really wonderful and valuable, over in the All In Entrepreneur, please, like, find a post about it or the poll about it or your own post about it and let people know, because they'll still be able to register to watch the replay. So if you really did find this valuable, please sing out Katie's praises in the All In Entrepreneur and let people know that they missed out if they weren't here live, and that they can still take advantage of watching the replay, and then hopefully they'll follow Katie and get this.
Yeah, the replay I feel like could be really valuable because it's a lot of information, so you can like take it in small chunks if you need to.
Pause.
Yeah,
Right.
So Karen, you can go back and like watch, the little segments of it, but.
Well, thank you guys so much for being here and staying with us today.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
should I give you my email too?
Yeah.
Here, let me, if there's any other questions. It's Katie at ktmediastrategies.com.
Cool.
Just for your group, Rita.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anything else, you guys? Don't give anybody else. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Katie. And we will.
You're welcome.
Over in the All In Entrepreneur. Thanks, everyone.
Sounds good. Hope to see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.